OCA, I do appreciate that you guys are trying to do something for us, fix some of the issues currently in the game, but yeah, it does appear there have been some mistakes made or maybe some miscommunications. We'll get to that in just a minute. So, Creative Assembly released today. This is a little bit late. I know, I apologize. I'm a little bit under the weather, as you can probably hear from my voice. Pace of content might be a little bit slow over the next couple days, but I did want to cover this, clear up some confusion. Basically, they released a patch that's live to the game, right? And we'll go through the changes. There's really not much. There's no balance changes, mostly just bug fixes, which is great. There's some pretty extreme bugs that needed fixing. So, primarily fixed issues with collision on chariots that were causing them to be overpowered. So, they don't list specifically like the Wargore chariot or the Razor Gore chariots, but we'll have to do some testing and see. I believe, actually, I'll leave a link down in the description below. I haven't had a chance to watch it yet, but Anticity did a testing stream on the new patch. But we'll get to why I think he tested this. I should probably have checked before I recorded this, but been a little bit, yeah, all over the place today. Anyway, the area of effect spells no longer affect units outside their range. Again, another pretty big bug that was pretty egregious, that needed to be fixed. Magic missiles bugging out and multicasting, again, needed to be fixed. So, the 3 big bugs squashed. This one is when a mod gives foreign slots to a faction that does not have them. Game no longer crashes on load. I'm not really familiar with exactly this problem. I guess it was affecting some mods. I'm not really sure. I don't really play with mods since I play pretty much only multiplayer these days. Kazrak and Morg are some campaign fixes here. I think this is specifically after Confederation. They could pop back up, which is no longer the case. Fixed a bug where Kazrak couldn't use his abilities on a Tuskgore chariot. A Razor Gore. Kazrak now gives Razor Gore's Vanguard, which is just awesome. Torox, they've fixed the overflow bug. Unfortunately, I never got to play. I say never got to. I never chose to play a Torox campaign with this actually active. I kind of messed around with it a little bit in early access, but I was having a lot more fun with Malagor and Morgr and some of the other Beastman Lords. But yeah, no more overflow, infinite rampage, but the raiding stance also no longer takes away movement range increase from raising a settlement, so some fixes there. They fixed an issue with one of the techs that was not unlocking correctly. That was a pretty big one. Yeah, some other kind of minor fixes for Beastmen. Tuskgore chariots now count towards the hero cap, which for some reason they didn't before. Very strange. Now that's been fixed. Oxyotl, some more campaign fixes here. Nakai also now gets access to the new units and Skink Oracles, a little bit of an oversight again. That's been fixed. Kai's campaign, unfortunately, still hasn't been, fully brought up to where it needs to be in a lot of people's eyes, and I do think they could potentially go back and revisit this at some point. But anyway, made improvements to the Quaddle melee animations. I haven't, again, tested this for myself, but it should be a little bit better, a little bit less janky. The Oracle double shooting was another pretty big bug for Lizardmen. That's been fixed, so the Oracle on the Troglodyte is going to be appropriately powered now. And again, the more fixes for increasing Oracle capacity. Some other minor fixes for campaign here for greenskins and for vampire counts. And all of this is currently live on Steam, right? So this is what's in the live game. And now they have created a beta that is optional for you to download, where they're testing out changes for Cavalry. And I'm going to go through a little bit of this. We'll probably talk more about this when I actually go in to do some testing for myself. But the issue is that this Cavalry Beta, if you download it, does not include all of these major bug fixes, right? So, and this is definitely a mistake from what I understand. Creative Assembly is looking at trying to integrate the 2 branches so that if you download the beta, all of these new bug fixes are implemented. But for example, if you go in and download the Cavalry Beta manually yourself to check out the new changes, the chariots will still be OP. You'll still have the area of effect bug, so just be aware that that is currently the case. Hopefully that will change. I don't have any more information for you right now on that front, but I will make an update video as soon as I know more. Anyway, on to the Cavalry Beta. Let's look at the intended changes here. Basically, they talk a little bit about the Great Weapon interaction here, and in general, how infantry countercharging was actually overperforming, and it wasn't performing as to their intentions. So Basically, summary of the changes here. Entities will no longer charge attack if their charge path is blocked by a friendly entity. Basically, it sounds like infantry were getting an extra rank that we're attacking. Yeah, back ranks no longer get to charge attack as well. So we'll see how this affects overall. Again, if you want, I think Anticity did some testing for the Cavalry Beta as well. And that's kind of how people started finding out that it was broken. But anyway, yeah, reduces damage dealt by infantry when countercharging, which helps cavalry trade more favorably with infantry, and the calculation for collision damage. So this is pretty interesting to me. This is something that I had kind of always been curious about and hinted around, but I had never been able to fully nail down exactly how collision damage works. So this is actually, besides the fact that they made a mistake and not including the other bug fixes, this is a really nice post actually, and I really do appreciate, I just wanted to say, I really appreciate sort of the explanation of how collision damage actually works. There's been a lot of misinformation in the community and misconceptions, even with myself, as to how collision damage work. Previously, your charge bonus was added to your collision damage, which is interesting. And the collision damage also, has to do with the relative mass between the two. Units, the one that's charging, the one that's getting charged, momentum, so speed, was also, bracing, and then knockdown and everything. So all of these were factored into collision damage. So now basically the charge bonus is applied separately. Collision damage is just a calculation using the collision power. Charging into braced infantry will result in much lower damage on impact than unbraced infantry, which again is sort of the intended interaction, right? Like, you should brace with your infantry pretty much always. And it would be nice, in my opinion, for maybe specific units to retain the old behavior, but I don't know if it's possible for them to set up two different behavior profiles for that. Like, for example, I always thought it would make more sense for, like, Slayers, for example, to actually countercharge, and maybe actually put that as a trait on there, that they specifically have an ability to, countercharge and perform in a way that they used to be able to. But I think this is, obviously you can't, that's not broadly applicable. I think this is a much better implementation. So we'll see. I might add a note for Creative Assembly to see if it's possible to re-add that behavior for specific units only. But anyway, yeah, cavalry should be favored in fights against infantry, against countercharging infantry. Of course, relative strengths units will still be important. So if you're countercharging, Empire Knights into Chosen, great weapons, you're probably still going to lose very badly. And then again, the explanation of collision damage, I definitely recommend you guys go and check this out yourself. I'm not going to deep dive too much into it. I'll probably actually make a dedicated video talking about collision damage now that we have like an official explanation from CA about how it actually works. This is pretty good stuff, so this is probably enough for me to make a full video on, do some testing, maybe show some example battles. But yeah, definitely go for yourself. I'll, of course, leave a link to the patch notes down in the description below. I just want to say I appreciate Creative Assembly, doing this Cavalry Beta, even though the implementation's borked. Hopefully they'll get things solved. Well, again, I don't have any more information, but be sure to keep your eyes on YouTube. I may make a video if it's not really much, if it's just like, hey, this will be out on X date. I may just make a post on Twitter and on the community tab, so if you're not on Twitter, just make sure you're checking the community tab on YouTube. And also, if you're on Twitter, give me a follow and you'll see my posts there as well. So hopefully you enjoyed. If you like this sort of content, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification. Every time I upload a new video, you'll be notified. Thanks again. See you next time.